I think we're just about ready. We get this. Yeah, that's good. Sure. Right, I think we are good to go. Awesome. Hello. How is everybody doing? How's things? How's your week? How is life? How's the universe? How's everything? Yeah, what's up? How you doing? I'm trying something new this week. As you can probably see by the fact that everything is nicely blurred, I'm using NVIDIA Broadcast since I have a 2080 on my PC anyway, and so why not, right? And it looks kind of cool, which is a nice sort of stopgap. I can see it just freaking out about my hair. What you call it? It's a nice stopgap until I can upgrade the camera, which I will be doing hopefully fairly soon. So it might still be another, month or two, knowing me, but hopefully that won't be too long. So fingers crossed there. Hello to Tom, and hello to Yano the user. Hello to Luca. How are you guys doing? How's things? How has everybody's week been? Mine's been interesting. Did you see yesterday's video? I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on specifically the CPU. Oh, I just realized, there we go. This got it. Sorry. It's a new camera source, so it was on top of the rest. Hello Wombits. Hello Just Do It Yourself. How you doing? How has everybody's week been? Hello Budget Bench. How you doing? New camera, there will be, what I was saying is that I'm using NVIDIA Broadcast to bokeh me, basically. I'll be honest, I haven't seen it yet. Treachery, treason, I can't words. Fair play, yeah. I post 3 videos a week. It's pretty understandable that people don't necessarily have, half an hour a week to spend on watching videos. Just my videos, so fair play. I highly recommend you check it out. It's one of the videos that I am both very proud of, and that I come on brain, would really like everybody to watch. So yeah. My friend said that you're good with PCs. I try. My CPU is in the 70, I assume degrees Celsius, because 70 Fahrenheit is absolutely freezing. 70 degrees Celsius for gaming, is that okay? Yes, I generally say anything under, 80 to 90 degrees Celsius is within operating spec. For example, my graphics card, which my case isn't the most efficient for cooling, but my graphics card normally sits at around 80 to 85 degrees Celsius while playing games, so 70 is fine. CPU normally sits at 70 to 80, so yeah, no problems there. Been procrastinating online schoolwork as per usual. Nice, quality. Watch it straight after the stream. Nice one. Hello Ryzen as well. Hello Michael, how you doing, man? Yeah. What was I saying? What did I? Oh yeah, so the Asus TUF laptop was an interesting one for me because it has an i7 that is a quad core, and actually, I saw a tweet from eBuyer, a UK, distributor, reseller, whatever, that I was considering retweeting, but basically it was a promotional post about that Acer laptop, and the specific wording was super slim design with 11th gen i7 plus RTX 30 series GPUs. Plus 140 Hz display, 512 gig SSD means unbeatable performance. Except the thing is that it's not an i7. Sure, you can put the i7 badge on it, but it's an i3 at best. it's 4 cores when the last generation of laptop chips, the lowest end i7 was 6, and it's an act of, well, deliberately deceptive branding, right? So that's frustrated me, I suppose, to see, because for us, you know, in the know, essentially, it's easy for us to look at the spec sheet and go, oh, it's a quad core, oh, that's not great, I'll buy the 6 or 8 core version instead. But for the average person who sees i7 and goes, oh, that means it must be good, it's not. Yes, the i7 11370H, note 11370H, that is an i7 branded, but it has 4 cores and 8 threads. Which from the last gen, the 10750H, I think, was the lowest end i7, and it what you call it? It had 6 cores, and the higher end one had 8 cores. Yeah. Have you ever delidded a CPU? Not properly, no. I've had delidded CPUs, but I haven't done the delidding myself. I never really needed to. And what's the best laptop you've ever reviewed? It kind of depends on what you mean by best. If you mean by the best, like, all-rounder, honestly, actually, the Asus Strix G15, that review's coming out in a week or two. I've just been working on it today. That is possibly the most well-rounded machine. I think it's about £1,700. But it has a Ryzen 750 800H, so 8 cores, has the full fat 115 watt version of the 3070, and it has a 300 hertz display that, for the first time, I actually care, which is weird, but it's great. And it was a very enjoyable playing experience. It was reasonably well built, and yeah, just a really impressive, well-rounded machine, if painfully hot. Mostly thanks to Asus's fan profile. I don't really understand why, but in the standard performance mode, it was as if it was running in silent. It could have been a bug or whatever, but when I put it in turbo mode, fans definitely ramped up, as you would expect them to. But it did also get a significant amount more performance out of the CPU, so that's kind of impressive. Hello Simon, how you doing, man? Imagine me wanted to buy a 3070 for my birthday. That was 6 months ago. Nice, yeah, fair play. I think even if I wanted a what do you call it? Even if I wanted to buy a 3070, 3080, I just can't. Hello Ish, how you doing, man? Yes, Essentialist, I am trying out NVIDIA Broadcast because I've already got a 2080 in my system, so why not? Hello Phil, how you doing, man? Being bold and watching on Twitch for once? True, but you're not a mod on Twitch, and I'm too lazy to make that happen, because I don't think I can do it from here. Can I? I don't know. No, I can only block you. Maybe not. Remind me and I'll do it. Anyway, my 2-year-old Solution. Well, thank you very much. Also, you asked, what do you think of the 11700K? From what I've seen, I'm not overly enthused. I think the main thing is the power consumption, right? Like the 900K, the naming scheme has bested me. That CPU already drew, in my testing, like 220, 240 watts as standard, and like 280 watts with a mild overclock, and that wasn't even AVX testing, that was just rendering in Blender. So yeah, that's gonna be the biggest concern, is especially with the 11900K, that's that's the higher end version of the 11700K, still 8 cores, but just with higher clocks. And I would be genuinely scared that that's going to draw 300 or 350 watts as standard. And that's very high. Like that, the 8-pin CPU power connector can only really handle about 300 watts sort of safely. So that CPU, like if you buy an 11900K, you're going to need to use both eight pins on the higher end motherboards, and you probably won't be able to use any of the lower end motherboards at all. So yeah. When I touch my glass panel where my CPU cooler is, either barely warm or warm, but where my GPU is, it's hot. Yes, that's because your CPU cooler generally directs airflow directly through it, and therefore out the back or out the top, whereas the GPU is an open air type design, unless you have a reference blower style, which is a single fan that blows at the back. But with any aftermarket GPU fan or cooling solution, what they generally have is multiple fans and basically just a way for a lot of airflow to escape the card. It's a very efficient way to do it, but it also means that your internal case temperature gets relatively high, and you need fans on the front or fans on the back to draw that hot air away from the card, so that as it's blowing what should be cold air into itself and then expelling it out, that hot air is being evacuated. With that said, 70 degrees Celsius for a GPU temp is still plenty fine. Like I said, mine runs at 86 when I'm gaming, so yeah, it's all good. Hey, do you think the Tri-Blend tee is more comfortable than the premium one? I don't remember if I have. I think this. I get the feeling that this is the premium one. So I'm not sure if I have a Tri-Blend tee. Might do. I don't remember. Is the honest answer? But I do. Whichever one this is, you might be able to tell by the style. I think they were slightly different. Maybe like a V-neck, slightly more. I don't know. Anyway, I like these a lot. These are the ones that I have for all of my, my ones. So yeah, the one that I know the difference between is the premium hoodie versus the standard hoodie. The premium one is thinner, nicer quality, but it's a more like lightweight hoodie, whereas the standard one is a bit thicker, a bit more winterized, I suppose. It says, I like the blower style idea, doesn't work as well, but doesn't need as much case airflow. Yes, I agree. I like the idea, but the practicality is it's just not as effective at dissipating heat, because you have more surface area going that way, essentially, where you can blow out and more airflow potential and more cold air, or more, not cold air, but temperature differential between the air being intaked and contacting the hot fins versus the blower style, where it picks up heat on one end and then can't really evacuate much more heat as it goes along the heatsink fin. So yeah. I have a Ryzen 9 3900X and an X570 Tomahawk motherboard. The chipset fan only time it spins is on boot up. Is that normal? Yeah, so realistically the chipset fan is only there if you're using PCIe Gen 4 through the chipset. Otherwise, especially if they've gone with a larger physical heatsink, passive cooling normally takes care of, passive cooling from the rest of your case airflow generally takes care of cooling the, what was that, like 15 watt SoC, and it's not always drawing 15 watts. So yeah, yeah, it's fine. It runs on boot up because it kind of, system check and runs everything and then works out what your settings are and that sort of stuff. So yeah. Is there a way to undervolt 5800H mobile CPU? As far as I'm aware, not directly. The mobile CPUs, the only ones that are unlocked are the new X series ones, so the 5900HX, which is normally for overclocking rather than undervolting. But in practice, there may be tools or BIOS options that you can use. I have not tried, so I can't tell you. Running a 3060 Ti and a 3600 on a Coolmaster 550 watt, there's no heating issues with the power supply. Is it necessary to upgrade to 650 watts? So the only reason that I would upgrade my power supply in that situation, especially if you already have the card and it's running okay, is if you're experiencing the system basically turning off when you load up games because of current spikes. If that was the case, then yes, you would probably want to upgrade your power supply to be able to handle that. But if it's running fine, if there's no visible issues for you, then there's no real need to upgrade that, at least for the time being. Potentially, as the power supply gets older and current capacity degrades, you might start encountering those instant shut off, overcurrent protection type issues, and so yes, that's in that scenario. Managed to buy myself a 5900X yesterday. Nice. I bought one like 6 months ago and it still hasn't turned up. Happy days indeed. Can you inform me of the BIOS flashback process, and should I not have other components installed in the motherboard when doing it? So the first question is which motherboard. The BIOS flashback procedure can vary depending on which board you're using, and it also depends on when your board was manufactured. If it will already come with a BIOS that will allow you to at very least boot the 1500X and then do BIOS updates kind of once it's booted. It's kind of up to you. You can sort of, do the BIOS flashback to the latest version before you install it anyway. I think generally speaking, having what was it? It depends on the motherboard vendor. Some of them want like RAM installed. Some of them want graphics card installed for display output, but most of the time it's just motherboard, power, and a USB stick with no CPU installed. Oh, forgot to mention, found a brand new set of RAM identical to existing kit on my PC for £50, so I'm finally on 32 gig of RAM rather than 16. Nice one. That's awesome. Kind of impressive you managed to find your own, like the exact same kit. That's decent. I think I'm running 64 now at 3200 megahertz. Although, honestly, I'm not entirely sure if it's even running at 3200 megahertz because I've had so many damn stability issues. Oh, it is! That's nice. That's rare. Yeah. Is there any method to check if there's any problem? PSU is 2 years old. So like I said, if you're able to play games, boot up games with no problems, your system isn't turning off instantly when you do it, then there is really no problem there. It's only when you start encountering instability, when you start encountering, when you start encountering it turning off when you boot up a game, that's when you know that overcurrent protection is being tripped and you need to upgrade the power supply. XR70 Wi-Fi. Right, fair play. I don't think I've ever had that board in particular, and I haven't tested any MSI X570 boards in a very long while, pretty much since they came out. So I don't remember MSI's BIOS flashback procedure, but it will lay that out in the manual if you need to. If you do need to use BIOS flashback rather than just booting it up and updating the BIOS sort of manually, if you like. Have you ever tested overclocking your own water cooling? I'd love to see how you perform. So I did a little bit when I did my the Coolmaster Master Case 5 mod project. I built a custom water cooling with a 4790K, I think, and overclocked it a little bit with it. And I built the water cooling solution to be a little bit overkill for what I was doing. It was a 980 Ti and a 4780K, and the motherboard that I had, which one was it? Asus, like Maximus, whatever. The one that had the EK water block built into the built onto the VRMs, and so I was powering all of that, and I did a bit of overclocking that at the time, but I haven't done any since. I haven't really needed to, or really been able to. If you leave your power cord permanently in the laptop, does it affect battery life over time when you do come to unplug it? So it depends how the company or the manufacturer has set up the like charging process. Generally speaking, yes, it does, because what you're doing is keeping the battery at its maximum level, which batteries tend to not like doing. They tend to be like 80% or lower is their sort of happy place. And so by keeping it at 100%, you are, and then, you know, taking a little bit and then taking it back and then taking it back, taking it back, that cycle of just sort of sipping the very tip of the power wears the battery more. That accelerates the battery wear process. If they are smart, and the way that they implement the battery charging procedure, you can, some laptops let you set what the maximum charge level is. So you can cap it at, say, 80% instead, which can help that battery life. Or they can also do things like just whenever the battery is fully charged, basically disconnect the battery and only use power from the AC supply, as long as the AC supply is enough to power the entire laptop. Long story short, yes, it can, depending on how it's set up. Right, the company Overclock UK have their own water cooler. Do they? I can't say that I've ever heard of Clocker's own water cooler. Let's see. Oh, okay. Right. Got you. So those are Asetek rebrands, I guess. That's probably the closest. I can only see a 92mm version, which is absolutely tiny. But they are Asetek ones, so that's the same manufacturer that makes ones for what do you call it? It used to be Corsair, but now Corsair use Coolit. But Asetek do Fractal, the Asus ones, Lee and Lee, I think. Anyway, they make a whole load of different ones, so if that was the one you're getting, then I'm not entirely sure why you would get the a 92mm one. At least that's the only one that I can see anyway. Then yeah, fair enough, I guess. It's Asetek, so it's fine. Yes, yeah, another user. Yeah, so especially with more standard laptops rather than gaming ones, they those sorts of advanced features aren't really a thing. So yeah. Do you use ATKL or not a fan? I prefer having a number pad, and I also like having arrow keys and, you know, home buttons and stuff. So I use full size. I don't think that I could really, like, I'm sure that I could get on with a TKL or whatever, but I don't. It's not my preference. I don't mind, like, my shoulder width is fine. So me resting, you know, kind of normally, that's fine with me. And yeah, I prefer having a number pad. Does the ADATA S11 Pro, let me see. I have, and it hurt a lot. In fact, I actually took a chunk out of my finger. Hurt a lot. Right, so it's a reasonable Gen 3 drive. Yeah, then in that case, Michael sounds decent. Looks to be a reasonable value. Can't see the 2 terabit one listed, but yeah, I imagine it's alright. I haven't tested it, so I can't tell you for sure, but I imagine they're going to be very similar to most, what you call them, most of the other Gen 3 drives. Yes, I did give you that. Not all batteries have a memory, but ones in modern phones apparently do. Best charging from 30 to 80. Any more is wasted. Reduced use puts less strain on the battery. So there's a difference between charge state and memory effect. So nickel metal hydride cells, which you'll find in a lot of the older rechargeable AA's, like these Eneloops. These are nickel metal hydrides rechargeables, as opposed to lithium cells. So lithium cells don't have a memory effect, but they do care about their state of charge. Whereas nickel metal hydride care a little bit less about their state of charge and more about, like I said, that memory effect. And if you don't run them down and then charge them back up and run them down and charge them back up, that's where you run into issues with those. Whereas with lithium cells, like I said, it's more about how charged they are, and if they are at a too high a level, essentially, you are wearing the battery faster than if you keep it in that, like you say, 30 to 80% range. Hello, Yanazig. How you doing, man? How's things? I'm making a Mac Pro killer and I'm choosing parts at the moment. Nice. I'm not sure of the fastest SSD available at the moment. That's probably the Sabrent Rocket 4 Plus. 7 and a bit gigabytes per second in reads and 6.8, all at 7 gigabytes per second in writes. So at least peak anyway. That's probably it. You could go into Optane, but price and capacity and other things might make that less of an appealing option. And at the very moment, you will need to be using an AMD CPU to run that. If you're willing to wait a bit, then you can use one of the new Intel Rocket Lakes. If you're willing to also invest in a, thermonuclear reactor cooler to keep it cool. Mustafa, I can't speak for Luca, but it could very well be for packaging concerns. If he's running it in a server chassis, then 92mm is generally easier to fit in than 160 tall cooler. Fun fact, fission nuclear reactors are all water cooled. They are indeed. Some of them have some additives in the water, but generally speaking, yeah. I think with certain ethylene and propylene glycol mixes, you can have slightly better cooling capacity, but it's still basically 50-50. Michael, like I said, I haven't tested the S11, but it looks to be a reasonable Gen 3 drive, much like the SX8200 Pro, so yeah, I'm sure it's fine. Well, I'm glad that you're still alive and kicking, and we are on behalf of the British public. I extend our national apology. Yeah. Just dump liquid nitrogen. Yeah. It should come with a free year's free supply if you buy one. That could be funny. Is the Zotac 3060 good? Depends which one, but yeah, it's alright. 3060 is a reasonable card as far as I'm aware. Haven't tested one myself, but from what I understand, yes, it's good. Kind of depends on which model Zotac card. So if you're talking about the absolute slowest one, then yeah. Molten salt reactors, true. That's not nuclear fission, but the thorium ones, yes. Also the one that the Gates Foundation designed, I don't think is water cooled specifically. Though I could be wrong. Yeah, you need a parking space for the truck. I am cooling my nuclear reactor with an Intel stock cooler. Should I be worried? If you live in Chernobyl, no. Otherwise, yes. Oh dear. Hello Tim. How can you adjust the colors on a laptop screen? I tried with Windows Color Management, but I couldn't adjust some settings because the screen doesn't have any buttons to adjust it itself. So it depends what you're after in terms of what settings you want to change. Generally speaking, laptop screens just don't have much built-in, difference or options, and so what you need to do is a calibration profile and load that into the GPU that is connected to the display. So if you have if you acquire a color calibrator like the Datacolor Spider 5, Spider X, you can use either the Datacolor tool or something like DisplayCal to run through measurements and create a color profile for your screen. You can then do changes to that color profile, like changing the white balance or whatever else, to get accurate and adjusted colors to you, and then you can save that profile to your graphics card and have that color profile adjusted on screen for you. I think it's 4. Is it? I think it's been what, 6 years total? Maybe. It's since Skylake. So Skylake, 6th gen, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. We're going on to the 6th generation, so it might even be more than 6 years. What's the fastest SSDs for Windows and Windows boot time? Honestly, there isn't much difference between a SATA and an NVMe and a Gen 4 drive. A reasonable Gen 3 drive, I'm sure that S11 you linked to is fine. Any of the reasonable Gen 3 drives, Sabrent Rocket 3 or like Sabrent Rocket, will be fine. Even the WD Blue SN 550 is probably going to be alright. Like I said, there really isn't much difference these days, so it's not a big deal. You can pretty much pick any you want and it's going to be fine. What was I going to say? How important is DRAM and SSDs? Quite. My brain has gone blank for giving you anything more than that, but I remember Linus did a video on it reasonably recently, so you can check that out for better details on it, but getting a DRAM-less SSD is generally not the best experience. You can generally get away with it, but usability can be limited. The new RS5. What engine are they using that? I assume RS5 means twin turbo V8. The RAM is needed to fake the performance stats. Fair. I mean, depends on the layout of the drive. I would argue that the SoC caching that they do is probably the more accurate way that they fake the fake performance stats. But yeah. Yeah, the soft limiter on literally everything. I think even mine has a 4000 RPM soft limiter. So yeah. I'm sorry, but the new M3 and M4, I can't. Chris Harris did a video on it on Top Gear's channel, and yeah. What got me was that the grille extends up and into the bonnet, and it just doesn't look great. And then the crease on the bonnet doesn't line up with the window ledge. Like, it just no. And also the fact that they swapped it for a they swapped the dual clutch gearbox for a was it a ZF 8-speed torque converter. Like, I'm sure it's fine in the M5 because the M5 is a little bit more of a sort of cruiser rather than track weapon, but with the M3, like, that is meant to be the ultimate like track toy, and having a torque converter automatic, just I can't. Yeah. I want a car without flappy paddles. So I believe that they will be offering the M3 in a manual, as a manual. But as of right now, if you want to go and buy one, all you can say is all you can buy is the automatic. I think you can only buy the competition pack or the competition version. So, yeah. What got you into tech in the first place? I built a PC with two friends. Like, I built, we all built PCs at the same time because gaming, basically. I think I probably started beyond the gaming route in and of itself. I was I think I started trying to mod GTA 4, which both dates me and dates the GTA series. But I started modding that on Xbox, like Xbox 360, with like hacked USB save game files to do fun things, whatever. And then I also wanted to be a game developer. I designed many a game as a child, including I really liked open world games, hence I liked GTA, I liked Saints Row at the time. And so I would draw out massive maps, which was fun. But yeah, so because I wanted to be a game developer, I liked hacking GTA, and I was kind of sick of Xbox Live fees. I built my first PT and started the channel doing it. Do you have the time, or do you still game nowadays? I both do and don't have the time. So I run TechteamGB, I run At The Wheel, and I run Locally Links, so kind of busy with those things. But I also don't ever switch off, and I don't what you call it? I don't. I had a formal diagnosis of ADHD. I think it was last night. Yeah. So that kind of explains things. But yeah, I don't ever switch off. I work on the weekends. I work pretty much whenever I'm awake. So I kind of have to be doing something. And so because of that, I end up having more free time than you might think I do. But I also don't play games all that much these days. So yeah. Yes. I still have that installed because it still works in GTA 5, Essentialist. No worries, Thickos. Petrol particulate filter. Even the GT3 sound trash. I haven't heard the GT3, the new one, but I don't disagree. I don't have a petrol particulate filter. It's only the, what was it, like 2018 and newer, I think. The B9s all have them, I believe. How do I change my motherboard with my memory saved? What do you mean memory? I'm currently on a 3400G with no GPU, looking to get CPU on the Intel side that's a bit better with a 3070. What CPU should I get? Kind of depends on what your budget is there. The 10600K I think was still a very good value for money that you can overclock well. 10700 or 10850. 10850K is about as well, so not too bad. There is the new 11th gen chips coming out relatively soon. I think that's like the 30th or something. So you might want to hold off a little bit for those and see if any of them take your fancy. Just be aware that that means, what you call it, you won't have PCI Gen 4 support nor much support for the added lanes to the chipset. Although if you've got an ITX board, that kind of doesn't matter really. Does the Samsung 970 EVO Plus offer similar performance to the SX8200 Pro? So I believe that the initial bit of performance from the 970 EVO Plus is probably similar-ish. The only trouble is that Samsung now use intelligent turbo writes, which is marketing for we couldn't be bothered to make the drive good enough, so we use we fake numbers for the first like 30 gigs or whatever. I don't remember, it depends on the capacities. I think it can be up to like 90 gigs. But if you write any more than that in a relatively small space of time, you get severely degraded performance, whereas you generally don't get that on stuff like the SX8200 Pro. But yeah. On NZXT, my CPU speed is like specific, whereas an Afterburner it's kind of rounded. The reading times and the accuracy and what they're reading. So for example, Afterburner could just be reading multiplier times base clock, whereas Cam could be reading a slightly different measurement that is reading the variances essentially, and it can also be a display thing. So Afterburner might only show you increments of 50, for example, and so that at 4489 that's close enough or whatever to 4500 that Cam will show you accurate, whereas Afterburner might show you slightly rounded for easier on the eyes essentially. So yeah, depends. I need a bit of cash for my own raid. What size did you go? I went 1 terabyte. I think that's probably going to be more than big enough for my normal use case. I think, like I said, I tend to write about 100 gigabytes a week, so even if I did a monthly move, it's still going to be plenty. I used a Kingston KC 2500, so NVMe not the fastest, but it's fine. I have a laptop which is an i7 8750H and a GTX 1060. Is it normal to have FPS drops for 1 or 2 seconds in every game? I already undervolted the CPU and improved something. So generally, like FPS drops aren't normally a thing you should experience. You can try, if you haven't already, updating drivers. It depends. You might want to check what temperature the CPU and GPU are running at while you're playing games. If they're getting too high, that will explain it. But yeah, there's a lot of potential issues there. So a 10850K wouldn't be too much for 3070. Yeah, no, like that's fine. It's going to be a reasonable pairing for sure. So yeah. Do you think the US tariffs will affect the global market? I don't know what the new tariffs are, so I can't tell you for sure, but the general answer is that kind of always, because that fluctuates demand, that fluctuates depending on what they're taxing or what they're tariffing. That can mean higher import costs for America, and if companies don't want to borne that directly on American consumers, then that can get distributed across to raise prices. So it can do. There's a large consumer base there that are a lot of the buying markets. Yeah, so the tariffs may be 25%, but tariffs on what? Like on tech, on steel, on automotives, on unless that's a blanket tariff on literally everything, which it won't be because there is always free tariff items or whatever. But yeah. Relatively badly, as I hear, ish. A lot of the burden is being borne by the individual consumers who are importing things that wouldn't have otherwise been taxed, and they potentially didn't know that there was going to be any added tax on them, and they can, depending on what it is, that can be a very expensive addition. So I think it depends. I haven't heard anything from any UK retailers about TechWise as of yet, but yeah. I've got a USB 3 to SATA converter. Can I hook this up to 1 terabyte SSD and plug my SSD plug into the PC in the USB 3? Yeah, that'll work. You should get actually pretty decent speeds. USB 3.0 is 5 gigabit per second, so you'll get like 400, 450 megabytes per second reads and writes no matter what drive it is, but otherwise, yeah, should be fine. Should I get a new boot drive for my gaming PC, then put that in my NAS? Nice. You can do, I guess. That's interesting. Tomorrow's video is going to be an interesting one as well. I'm testing with the Razer Viper 8K and if I could actually notice a difference. I got my partner to change the polling rates, without me looking, doing sort of a blind test between 125, 500, 1000, and 8000 hertz, to see if, like I said, I could tell any difference between them, and then also work out, even if I could tell the difference, if it actually matters in games, like if my in-game performance is any better, you know, for the average person, because it's obvious that reducing input lag and better accuracy of your tracking your movements is more effective for the you know, high skilled players, but for the plebs, yeah, less effective. Every video, Jesus, speak. You do is interesting because you're honest. Well, thank you very much. As you're probably well aware, I get in trouble for being honest, but I would rather that than not. So Michael, from a technical level, yes. From a practical level, no. You won't notice a difference running Windows and games off of the same drive. The load times won't be significantly impacted by you having that. I hate to bring it up, but how are things at MSI now? Fine. Like I said, they hired a PR agency that I already work with. So I'm already speaking to the same people. It's actually the same PR agency that runs Samsung SSDs and Zotac. So when I go to the PR guy, I can be asking him about any one of those companies all in the same email. But what that means is that it's sort of back to normal, if you like. Reasonable. I haven't reviewed any laptops as of yet. I haven't had any in. I don't think I've been offered any as of yet. I guess I need to be the one to ask for one, which I should do for sure. Especially with all the new Ryzen laptops being out and about for sure. So yeah. What? Brain's gone blank again. Wonderful. But yeah, because there's the middleman in the middle, the chance of the interactions that I had happen again are a lot less probable. Oh, back hurts quite a lot today, so apologies. I think I'm gonna need to sit back a bit. Well, at least NVIDIA Broadcast is working quite well. It's still a bit soft on the old hair, but yeah. Yana the user, I have been to Computex once. It was fantastic. I would love to go again. The only trouble is the expense of it, and getting companies to sponsor me to go out there essentially. But if I can get sponsorship to do it, then yes, I would love to. I'd love to go back out when it's possible. That's probably not this year. It's probably next year. Maybe the year after that, but we'll see. I'm hopeful anyway. It'll be good. Although I might need to take a different approach than I did last time, because last time I walked, I think it was like 15 kilometers with my foot in absolute agony, and I'd rather not do that again, so we'll have to see. Well, yeah, my chat's updating pretty slowly. The one on screen seems to be updating quicker than my one, which is weird. and I can't talk about that. I've got some things coming. I'm excited to share them with you when I can. How can I tell if my VRMs are overheating? My overclock shows instability after an hour or so of gaming. So you can look at, if you download a program like Hardware Info, HW Info, you can look at literally every single sensor and temperature readouts. So you can check things like your CPU temperatures and all of the motherboard sensors, which normally include at least one, if not multiple VRM heatsink, VRM temperature probes. So keep an eye on those, basically. Consider putting the Doom Eternal soundtrack in the background next time. If only I had the rights to it. All of the music that you hear in videos and in on the stream is what you call it, copyrights, free, royalty free music from Epidemic Sound Library. Oh yes, also I made a purchase today, and it's arriving tomorrow. I bought a number of CPUs so that I can test with them, and I never have to, return them and give them back or whatever. So I've got a 10850K, a 5600X, and a 5800X coming. So I can, what you call it? I can actually have some CPUs to do some comparisons with, which I'm very excited for. I hope that that will allow me to offer better content, better reviews, because there have been a number of times where I've gone to test things and not having a specific CPU to test with is a touch frustrating, I suppose. How risky is updating your BIOS? Not very, as long as you don't pull the plug on it. You let it do its thing on its own. I don't think I've ever bricked a board from just standard updating the BIOS. So it's fine, yeah. Thanks, Ish. Yeah, it's the wispy bits at the top that the algorithm doesn't quite get right. Oh, it's doing my fingers too. That's fun. Ah, like gets my hand, but up here it doesn't quite. Oh, no, it's got my thumb, but it doesn't have my index finger. That's weird. Anyway, yeah, it's an interesting effect. It works fine. I left it on sort of relatively low strength, so you can still sort of see around, but not too harsh, I suppose. Yeah, looks all right. Unlucky, man. Unlucky indeed. Hope your 3060 Ti turns up soon. Yeah, especially on AMD, having Agi's updates is very beneficial to have reasonably up to date. Yes, the silver triangles are out of focus as well. I know. Lost or lost. Well, I hope it's not the latter. I mean, I hope it's not either, but at least if it was a genuine mistake, then it's a little bit easier to deal with, you know. No worries, yet another user. Thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully I'll see you next week. Yeah. Anyone have any last minute tech questions before we head off? Apparently the NZXT Kraken M22 doesn't perform as good as a Terra cooler for the same price. I believe that. Is that the one that has the pump built into the radiator? If that's the case, then I understand that. My GTX 680, wow, has a problem. It's making a buzzing sound. The higher the fan speed, the louder it sounds. There's a good chance that could be the fan bearing, or the fan itself. It could potentially also be coil whine, because higher fan speed means more power draw. In practice, it is more likely to be one of the fans. Unfortunately, graphics card fans aren't really that serviceable, so there's not much you can generally do about those beyond replacing the cooler with an aftermarket one. Have I modded the S4? Not yet. That's still I don't drive it enough at the moment to need that, and I definitely want to track day it first before doing any mods, so then I can sort of see how it compares, kind of thing. So yeah. What's my preferred operating system? Windows. Windows apprehensively. I would like to, if I could use Linux, I probably would. Although in practice, the it's not quite production readiest, but it's not easy. And I want the operating system. I want to forget that the operating system exists rather than I want to micromanage everything and have to use terminal for pretty much everything. So sort of begrudgingly Windows. I'm not one for the whole track day thing. Prefer touring. Fair play. I prefer adrenaline. So yeah. But the operating system is my favorite bit to keep fixing. Yeah, no, there are a number of things that I want to just work TM, and so Windows is the closest to that while still having actual control of my operating system. Anyway, I'll call it quits for the night. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I do these every Thursday night, 8 PM UK time. So if you got any more questions, feel free to pop back next week. As always, there's a load of links in the description if you want to support me and the channel and all that jazz. And yeah, thanks for watching.